Hey there, welcome to Radio Face. As always, my name is Daniel Trinham, and I will be your host. It is truly an honor that you have decided to tune in for today's episode, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Before we begin today's episode, I want to let you know that this show is in no way affiliated with the other show that I host, The Third Seat. However, if you'd like to check out The Third Seat, then you can find the information and links for it in the description of today's episode. I think you will really enjoy it as well, so I highly recommend you check it out. Along with this, you can find all other links to my social media accounts, as well as any necessary information for any guests that may join me on the show, or myself down in the description of today's episode. With all that being said, I want to thank you again for listening in to today's episode. Now let's jump into the conversation. In life, a lot of times, you will meet people, you'll have experiences, and you will come across individuals that once you have the benefit of hindsight, you are able to tell just how these people impact your life, and you can also tell how the experiences in your life bring you to the certain points in your life that you experience in the future. I would definitely say that the fact that we are sitting here right now is a testament to that, because we met in high school, I believe, and if you had told me in high school that we were going to be sitting at a table together with one another, having a conversation on a podcast, I would have been very confused. I said, I don't know if that's going to happen. But life has a funny way of working things out a lot of times, and I think that for that very reason, I'm very excited to speak with you today. So, Will, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, no problem. So, obviously, I know you. We have, like I said, we've been friends since freshman year of high school. Is that correct? I mean, we probably knew of each other before that, but we didn't go to middle school together, so we were kind of like strangers. But for everyone out there that does not, know you, just give a little bit of a background about who you are, what you're doing, and just how you're doing as well.
As Daniel said, my name is Will Guy. As of this date, I am 22 years old. I go to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Go Mocs.
Yes, go Mocs.
Go Mocs, baby. Power C.
I'm from Englewood, Tennessee, in McMinn County, same as Daniel. And I don't know exactly how else to. I've never had. As you have known, because we talked about this, I've never had to do this.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, it is a bit of a trip having a microphone right in front of your face and being able to hear it. So I understand it is a bit of a weird experience, like describing yourself in an interview. So I get that. But no, part of my usually interviews I've done in the past so far, they have been to a degree somewhat planned out, not entirely scripted, but I'll have a pretty decent framework of how I anticipate it going. I deliberately kind of threw that out the door with this one because, one, we know each other very well, but two, I want this conversation to be as raw and as just from the heart as we can. I don't want it to be too scripted or too planned out as possible, because as I know, and as you know, and as a lot of people whoever's going to listen to this are about to find out, both of our lives took a lot of different turns, twists and turns to get to where we are today.
Around the same time.
And so I feel like it would be only appropriate that we just go into this just open and honest and just talk about our experiences and, share that with everybody listening. So,
and I think when we get into the actual conversation part, it will be, but the description itself, like even in interviews is my least favorite part.
Yeah. Well,
I never do that.
Yeah.
I'm just always like, this is me.
Yeah.
And you'll find out more about me later.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, let's just jump into it then.
All
so,
right, that sounds good.
not to spoil too much of the story, but I'll just hand it over to you and just let you start wherever you would like to start, if you don't mind.
Okay. As we had talked about before, my name is William Guy, and at 19, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which if you didn't know that, because I didn't know that at the time, I just knew that lymphoma sounded bad, and you probably did not want it, although it is a cancer of the lymphatic system. I had stage 2, which meant all of the lymph nodes that were swollen and had tumors on them were above the waist. majority of them were in my chest area and my neck area, in the mediastinal, and in medical terms, is where the area would be considered. And then is yours as well.
Yeah, so my story, mine's a little bit different. There's a reason why I'm asking Will this particularly. Let me think. I was 18 years old. It was the summer before I started at UTC. I started at UTC in the fall of 2018, and if I remember correctly, we'll go through the details in a bit, but in July of that year, July of 2018, I had started having some vision problems, and I started having seizures. And what we later came to find out is that I had a tumor on the back of my head, on the back of my brain, specifically the portion of my brain that controls, well, all of our brains, but specifically the portion of our brain that controls vision, which is why my vision was being affected the way it was. And I kid you not, within under a month, we found out about it. It was diagnosed and it was removed, which, relatively speaking, was relatively soon before you were diagnosed with lymphoma, correct? Yeah. And so that's why I say it was kind of interesting timing, because, I don't know if my tumor was benign. It was not cancerous, so it was a relatively simple, from what I am told, relatively simple process of going in, removing it, and then if all things are good, then you're good to go.
Brain surgery.
Yeah, as simple as it can be, but that was pretty much the process of mine. And so, although it was not cancer, I felt like, for me personally, I had experienced something that most people, especially most people my age at the time, have not experienced, because it's, as you know, it's a very it's an odd feeling to be told that you have a tumor anywhere on your body, whether it's benign or cancerous.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, it is. It's not something you usually want to happen, and it's something that I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing. I remember the days preceding it and following. Like, it was a very weird time in my life personally. I would imagine it was similar for you as well, albeit under different circumstances, similar for you as well.
Absolutely. I can almost, my memory is not great anyway, but I can almost remember, not the entire day, but a great majority of the day, probably a good 8 to 12 hours of that, like, entire day in almost perfect detail.
Yeah, and so I'll run through real quick just what it was like for me, and then I want you to tell what it was like for you, just the early stages of your diagnosis. So, for those that aren't aware, it's like I said, I was diagnosed with a tumor, and if I remember correctly, the name of the tumor, you can look it up. It sounds like a dinosaur. That's why I always joke about it, but it was called a pilocytic astrocytoma. Which, like I said, when you get diagnosed with these things, you tend to remember them. But it was a benign tumor that shows up within the first 2 decades of somebody's life. And I was diagnosed when I was 18, so it all checked out. But for me, it had actually started off many, many, many years prior. This tumor can actually develop from birth. It can start from birth. And it started with me whenever I forget what age I was. I want to say I was maybe like in 6th grade. I went on a hunting trip with one of our family friends and didn't end up getting anything. Came back, I was dead tired, and I fell asleep on our couch. And while I was asleep, I had a seizure. And so they took me to the hospital, checked me out, and they said, "We think it's probably just random. It happens at times." And so we said, "Okay." Well, we went with that, and we got a few brain tests done. I don't know what they're technically called. I'm just going to call them brain tests. But we got a few tests done, and they said, "Yeah, we just think it was random. It can happen at times, even when you're asleep. He should be fine. He's a healthy young boy. You just, go on about your day." I said, "Okay, sounds good." And for years, nothing happened. It wasn't until, like I said, the summer of 2018 in July. I remember specifically, I was spending the night at my friend Brant's house. Shout out to Brant if you're listening. We were at his house, and I was going to stay in his guest bedroom, and so I went to sleep. I think it was the night of July 4th, actually. I think it was either the night of July 4th or around July 4th. and went back, went to sleep at his house, and in the middle of the night, I was having a seizure again. Now, obviously, I was asleep, so a good question is, how do you know that you were having a seizure? What happened is that his mom, Brant's mom, was asleep in the living room. She had fallen asleep, and at some point in the night, she woke up and decided to go back to her bedroom. And so when she was walking back to her bedroom, she passed the guest bedroom door that I was in, and she heard some noise coming from there. And then she came in and discovered that I was having a seizure. And so this launched a whole, I'll use the word investigation, use that loosely. Investigation, like, okay, well, he's had 2 seizures that we know of now. They're years apart. How are they correlated? There's obviously something, matching them together. And it turned into this whole big investigation, and we learned that I had a tumor on the back of my head, on my brain specifically, and that it needed to be removed. Luckily for me, I consider myself extremely lucky. It was not cancerous because, as you know, and you'll talk about, cancer is not something you want to deal with, but it requires much different treatment a lot of the times than a benign tumor does. It's not the same in the way of treating it and dealing with it. And so I consider myself very lucky. We've gone back and forth about who had it worse oftentimes.
We sure do, and
yeah.
It's still undecided as a total, because we will probably never ever come to a conclusion of who had it worse.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like old men with their stories. Like, they always tell the same stories over and over again. Like, we'll probably, up until whenever the day we die, we'll probably sit there and be like, I think you still had it. Like, we'll go back and forth about it. But
I'll be beside your deathbed and whisper, you still had it.
Yeah.
You're gonna go,
no. But I mean, in a nutshell, that was kind of my story leading up. How we discovered it, and I'm glossing over a few details, my personal story, but that's kind of how we got to roughly to where I'm at today. So, what was it like for you in your experience?
Just to give, because you also mentioned it was the fall that you were moving into, or going into college.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Mine was that following spring, closing in on our technically first semester of college. Of course, I did not go to UTC originally. I went to Cleveland State Community College.
Go Cougars.
Yeah, I believe it speaks for itself on many occasions.
Yeah.
But I was, and about that time was the time that me and you were getting a lot closer, because it was about a year of us consistently hanging out almost once or twice a week with, as you mentioned, Grant and Cade also. Shout out to Cade.
Shout out to Cade. We had a really tight friend group, so we would hang out all the time.
We probably spent the night at your house at least once a week.
Yes, if not more.
If not more. But so about a year after we really started getting close, like I said, closing in on our first official year of college, I was working for Domino's Pizza at the time, and I'd come home from a long shift. I noticed it the night before that my lymph nodes had seen, or my neck was swollen along the base, and I just assumed it was from stress and some other things, because we had a worker shortage then at the time at the store, of our really small store that covered probably 3.5 cities at the time. And I just figured it was stress from just having to work so much. And then whenever I woke up Sunday morning, they were still very swollen. So my mother, as she tends to do, was immediately like, we need to get this checked, And I, as I tend to do, was not very, I wasn't very quick to jump to anything.
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right, we'll do whatever.
Well, you didn't want to make any major assumptions.
Yes, I don't like to jump to conclusions. And she doesn't usually, but looking back now, I understand why she was wanting to be so urgent about it. And we even had a conversation one day of later on of how I was trying to convince her that it was not cancerous. Spoiler, if you didn't know that portion of it.
It was. It did
end up being cancer.
Yeah.
So like I said, spoiler alert for the rest of the story. But we went after church. We went to a walk-in clinic, a local one in our town, and then they believed that I had mono, of all things. There's a deeper story of that time spent. But we'll leave that out for.
That's for another day.
That is definitely for another.
It's for another episode.
Yes,
Yeah.
But we went to a local doctor. They ran some more tests. I had a CT scan, a lymph node biopsy where they took one of the neck lymph nodes out of that area of my neck that it was swollen, and then tested it. And then they a couple days later had me meet with an oncologist, and he had told me that it was lymphoma. And then I had a PET scan to see what stage it was in. Like I said, I had stage 2.
Which, for those that are not, what does stage 2 mean exactly?
So with lymphoma, it's odd, like how the stages work, but for the most part, the tumors located within your body or within your waist to your chest or neck area, just in the basically top portion of your body, your torso, come to say portion of your body. But as long as the tumors are in there, it's stage 2. Stage 3, I believe, is below, and then stage 4 is attached to organs. Could be wrong about those specific things, but I did know that stage 2 was above the waist. But on the day of where I was told that I had lymphoma, I remember coming home from community college, knowing that I had this doctor's appointment after they'd run all these tests and scans and things, going back to another Domino's pizza store and getting 2 chicken bacon ranch sandwiches for me to eat because I had not eaten the rest of the day. I met my first cousin, Hunter Powers, shout out to Hunter if you ever listen to this, in the Walmart parking lot. And as I was eating one of the sandwiches, we were sitting there talking about this. We were talking about this doctor's appointment that I was going to, and jokingly, he told me, "Dude, it's probably cancer." And then we both just laughed it off, and I was like, "Oh yeah, probably." And then he went on to work, and then I went on to the appointment, and then ate the other sandwich that I'd gotten. So, if you've never had a Domino's chicken bacon ranch sandwich, they are not the smallest sandwiches. Which eating 2 of those might have contributed to everything else as well. But I was having a good day.
Yeah, you were feeling good
to that point.
Yeah.
Then we go into the doctor's office, and he's very somber. He's very quiet. He waited for everyone to leave, like the waiting room, and then brought me and my parents in the back. And then he had told me the news. He was just like, "You have lymphoma." And like I said before, wasn't exactly sure what it was, if we're being honest. I just knew you didn't really want to have it.
Yeah.
He told me that, and I sat there for a couple seconds with no reaction because, like I said, I didn't know what it was. And until I saw him start to tear up and my parents really start to tear up, that I knew that it was bad.
Yeah.
Like it was real bad.
Yeah.
And then I, because of context clues of the physical situation I was in, I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then he explained that it was either Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, and they were going to do that biopsy that I talked about before to see which one it was as well. But that's essentially how that first day went.
Yeah. And for me, so I had a somewhat similar experience. I remember it was funny. So oddly enough, I had my surgery to remove my tumor, as well as all the scans and everything in Chattanooga, like 2 minutes from the campus, from UTC, oddly enough. But I remember when we went and did the scans for this was after I had like an eye appointment, because I said my vision was weird. And so, or let me back up a little bit. So prior to this, for those that are listening, my father is a doctor. And so at his office, there's another doctor there that he is like my, written doctor. Like my dad can't be my doctor. So he, like the other doctor that works there is my doctor, if that makes sense. And so we had kind of given him some different results of what was going on. And we went into his office. And I remember sitting there with my mom and my dad to my left and my right, and Dr. Riley, he was standing in front of me. And I could tell, similar to what you were talking about, there was something different in his demeanor. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd had doctor's visits before, and they're pretty standard, cut and dry, but I could tell there was something different about his demeanor at that time. And I remember he told me, he said, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, it could be that. And he went on this long laundry list of what this could be. And then at the end, he stopped for a second and he said, it also could be a tumor, but we don't know for sure if it is that or not. We don't want to make any, major assumptions. And I remember when he said that, I was like, okay. I was like, that's That's interesting. I was like, okay. I mean, he said it could be, but I guess, it could be a lot of things. Like that was my ration. I was trying to
You
ration.
mentioned that one last.
Yeah,
So
and
that's probably
so
the least.
yeah, so I was thinking like it's probably like the least. He just has to tell me that just to be sure. And then so now we went and got some scans down in Chattanooga. I think I did some MRIs and stuff. Which I don't know if you've had MRIs before. I'm assuming, right? Or have you had an MRI?
I've never had one on my
Well,
brain, I don't think.
well, just have you had one? Period.
I don't think so.
What? Oh wow. Well, for those that haven't had an MRI, they're no fun. They're very loud. So if you can not do an MRI, don't do them. But that's beside the point. Had some MRIs done, and it was funny enough that day I had work. I worked at a local pharmacy in the area, and so I rode my parents back, and they dropped me off at work. I worked for like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. It was like a half shift, and then I came home. And similar to how you were talking about how when the doctor told you your parents started tearing up and you could tell something was different, when I got home, I knew something was very odd. Something was off because when I walked in, so I have a younger sister, and at the time I don't know how old she was, but she's a ball of energy. And there's always some noise being made in our house. She's either bouncing the ball or running around. It was dead silent. There was nothing happening, and she was nowhere to be found. And so I was like, something is odd. Like, this is very odd, And then I walk into our living room, and my parents are sitting separately, one on each couch. Our couches are like L-shaped. And so they weren't sitting together. One was on one couch, one was on the other one. And I knew immediately this was my time to sit down in front of them because they had something to tell me. Like, the TV wasn't on. No music was playing, nothing. It was dead silent. I was like, okay, I know y'all haven't just been sitting in here for hours with nothing happening. And my dad said, he said, we got the MRI results back, and he said, we just wanted to show you something. And so we walked into the room where our computer is, and he showed me the results, and he pointed directly at it, and he said, that right there is a tumor, right on your brain. And I was like, there it is. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I just remember feeling... It didn't feel real at the time because, again, for me personally, we didn't know if it was cancerous or not. I don't think at this time. Or no, I take that back. We felt it. We thought for a couple different reasons that it wasn't cancerous, but we didn't know for certain. And so, I remember at that time just thinking, what am I supposed to do now? Because usually most things in life, there's some action you can take to try to solve a problem or try to make things better. If something's wrong, there's always something you can do to try and alleviate the pain or problems in a situation. But I would imagine somewhere for you, I mean, there was nothing you could do. You couldn't like start a new diet that would fix it, or you couldn't there was nothing you could do. I mean, you were just told like this thing is happening to you and you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of it now. Yeah. And I remember specifically going to bed that night, laying in my bed, just looking at the ceiling thinking, do I really have a tumor in my head? Like on my brain? Like this isn't like, there's no, like it was all happening so fast too. I just remember being so just dumbfounded. It didn't feel real. I mean, how did you feel after all this was happening to you?
Like I'm glad that you went through the after portions, or like when you learned about everything, or whenever your parents had told you, because for me, after I was told, and I'd left this out of the story before, because you like you said about reacting to it, and then you get in the stage where you deal with it, and then you have to kind of figure out how you're going to tell other people and have yourself deal with it for other people. As well, it's great to have that time for you to deal with it first, which I was looking forward to, because like you said, there's nothing really you can that you physically can do. Yeah. You kind of just have to. Well, in the moment, I honestly didn't know what to think. He told us, we were in there, we were mom and dad were hugging me and everything. And we get up to leave, and we're ready just to go home and kind of just rest for the day, taking all the information, just get ready to deal with it. And we open the door, and my grandparents, my mom's parents, are sitting right outside waiting on us, which I love them to death. Some of the greatest people on earth to me, but was a very non-convenient time to see them, as one could probably imagine. So I had to sort of put off my dealing with it and then go talk to them and explain everything that happened to them. And then on our way back through to our house, because my dad's parents live on the same road as us, and right before you get to our house is their house. Mom and Dad had asked me if I wanted to stop and see them because they were sitting on their porch, because it was about this time of year. It was maybe a little bit later in August or mid-August, so it was spring. It was real hot, so everybody was sitting outside and everything. And then I just said, I just want to go ahead and get it over with. I'll just go up there and see them and just get it all out of the way. While, like, might as well just get it all in one fell swoop. Yeah. So I went, saw my mom's parents and cried with them and told them. And then on our way back through, I just went ahead and stopped with Dad's parents and cried with them and told them everything. And then went back home. And I remember Mom, because not having that time before, we had my niece and nephew with me at the time, and she brought them outside to go feed our animals and things, and gave me just a couple hours of just being
just
alone.
by yourself.
To give me that time to that alone time for me to deal with it. And I remember it was about 2 hours before like they come back in, and she'd messaged me and asked if it was okay if they come back in. But I remember within those 2 hours, just being like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I just got started with college. I was about to finish my first year. It was kind of like I was thinking way ahead and like kind of throwing a loop into all of my plans at the time and what I was going to do for the summer, because I'd worked on the river the past summer and really enjoyed it and planned on going back. And there's just a lot of things that were going on within that time. And then I also remember specifically texting you, Brant, and Cade, and I remember texting basically all of my friend groups and telling everybody at once. Yeah. And like I remember being in my bathroom, I'm sorry for those that are also listening to this, but I was taking a poop because, as I mentioned before, I'd had 2 large Domino's sandwiches within a 3-hour period. So I had a lot that I needed to work through.
You had a lot to unpack, you could say.
I most definitely did. In almost every single way at that point. I remember being on the toilet and just, again, sorry for those listeners if you don't want to hear this, but thank you. This is so hard to do while you're crying. Yeah. I remember trying to text y'all, trying to poop, and then crying at the same time. And I was laughing because it was so hard. So,
I mean, it was like a scene out of like a movie or something. Like it really was.
I just couldn't multitask.
I didn't know this, by the way. So this is. I remember you texting, but I didn't know all this context. That really puts everything retroactively into perspective now.
So when you think of about 3 years ago, around this time, you can really, I hope you can picture that in your head. Me really struggling just to do 3 totally random and opposite things at one time. But anyway, like there was that. I remember telling everybody else, and when my mother come back in with my niece and nephew, I know not everyone else can see what we're doing. They can only hear our voices right now. My nephew come back in on this very day and gave me this 4-leaf clover. And I've never really shown this to anybody else before, but I have
never seen this.
I've just handed it over to Daniel. It is a 4-leaf clover, a 3-year-old at least 4-leaf clover that's encapsulated.
I say it definitely is 3 years old.
Yes, you can definitely tell. You can see right through it. Actually,
for those that are listening, it is translucent, but also a dark shade of brown. As I think Ron Swanson would say, a deep mahogany.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very great description. Yeah, and I've really only pulled it out to change over my wallets to another wallet, and it stays behind my license at all times, or it did before I had moved my license out of my other wallet. But it's been in my wallet after wallet for the last 3 years. And it was just a cool little thing for him to bring in a 4-leaf clover on probably what I would consider one of the toughest days that I had to deal with so far. And at that point, I'd already dealt with it and everything. Still didn't really know how to react.
How can you react? I mean, it's like I don't know. It's so hard. Not that I would ever wish anybody to have to deal with either of these situations, but it's just you feel so helpless,
yes,
because you want to do something. You want to. If there's ever a time where you are, if there's ever a time where you're motivated to try and right a wrong in your life, it's when it deals with like your humanity, you know, like if you go to the doctor and he's like, hey man, you need to, if you don't do this, this is going to happen to you. That's suddenly like, okay, like I'm going to change the way I act, but like, you can't do anything about this. It's totally out of your hands.
Yes.
Almost entirely.
That was one of the things that the doctor also told me. He said, with lymphoma, essentially, he's like, there's nothing you can do to start it. Like, there's nothing that causes it. It just happens. Which, for some people, is a very frightening thing. That it was just a random occurrence. But for me, it was very peaceful to know that I didn't specifically do anything. But like you said, like, how do you deal with it? And there's not I can't tell anyone a direct, like, perfect way to deal with it. But you kind of come down to one or two options, and that's really through any struggle in life. You still have these two options. You can either stay where you're at in that very moment, and you can kind of wallow in it. You can stay, like, put down whenever life or whatever knocks you down, or you can say, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm not going to let this, like I'm going to let this stop me dead in my tracks. I'm just going to push forward. I'm going to live on. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. I'm going to survive. Like, I'm just going to go for it. Like, no matter what I have to do, no matter, like, who I have to go through to do it, like, you just have to, like, almost a do or die mindset. To really describe it, I guess. But another way you can, that for me, it's not the healthiest coping mechanism, but I chose to help myself cope by joking with it. As Daniel and anyone that has ever met me physically and is really comfortable with me, like, to talk about this, knows. And I didn't really hold back a lot with that, which, looking back, was probably not great on my part.
No, but what are they going to say to you? You know, I mean, you know.
That's what the dangerous part of it was, because I was like, no one's going to tell me no. I was like,
they have to laugh at your joke. They have no other choice.
And we're going to get to that point later on. But there are some people I would specifically make some bad jokes to, knowing that they were probably some of the worst things that I have said, and like joke wise. But I needed that moment. Like, I don't like to specifically look out for myself and things. That's one of the reasons I hate in the descriptions of myself part of interviews, or even like the introduction to this podcast, because I don't like talking about myself a whole lot. But I needed that moment, and we'll get to why. And we've had similar stories about this in the past.
Something that you were talking about, how you were able to deal with it. Looking back, for me, it all happened so fast, because I kid you not, we found out about my tumor and had it removed physically from my body all within the month of July. Which is kind of crazy to think about, because, you know, it takes like a month to schedule a doctor's appointment sometimes. So the fact that it all fell within that was an extreme blessing. But the thing that really, it helped me, it drove me to keep my head on straight, for me personally, not that this is going to be the same for everybody, but I quickly realized that although I was the one with the tumor, and I was the one that was going to have to go through the surgeries, and I was the one that was going to have to be in the hospital rooms, and I was the one that was going to have to deal with all this kind of, you know, head on, it was not just me that it affected. I could visibly tell that not only my family, but my friends and those that knew me, even people that loosely knew me, like, they were shaken by it to a degree, because people that I had not spoken to in years, or that I had loosely spoken to over the past few months, I mean, they were texting me, calling me, asking me if I was okay, like, just out of the blue, like people out of nowhere. And so for me, it really reinforced with me that I had to keep, no pun intended, I had to keep my head on straight, because if I panicked, everyone was going to panic. If I lost my composure, everyone was going to lose their composure. And I'm not saying that, you know, if you are diagnosed with something similar to either of our experiences, that you're not allowed to ever, have those moments where you just lose all control, because there were moments where I locked my door and just wanted to just disappear. Like I didn't know what to do. But you'll have those moments. But when I was around people that I knew and that I cared about, I felt a bit of a duty to them, because I knew that if I was going to get through this safely, I needed to get through it with them. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do it alone. As the saying goes, no man is an island. And I certainly was not an island in that situation. And if I did not keep my composure, I was going to quickly isolate myself. At least that's the way I felt. And that really helped, because, man, it we'll talk about the kind of different side of this, but it really did help for me to have people come and try to support me. And without all those people that checked on me and wanted to make sure I was okay, I don't know where I would be. It really, I know that's kind of cliche to say,
but you also you wouldn't want to know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to go through it without.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing for me is understanding that if you're ever put in a situation like this, what you do, people are going to feed off of it. Because I remember very distinctly, I was just trying to do my best to be at peace with it. And I remember we were driving down to, I don't know if this was for my surgery or it may have been the day before my surgery. We were driving down to Chattanooga. I don't know. We were driving down to Chattanooga either for the surgery or for another scan. And my dad asked me, he said, "So Daniel, how are you feeling?" And basically I was just like, it's out of my hands. There's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to be at peace with it if I can. It's totally in the doctor's hands, and I've got to keep my head on straight. And I remember him visibly being kind of shocked, because that's not what you expect someone that's been told they have a brain tumor to say. But they've told me ever since that really strengthened them a lot, because understandably they were shaken by this as well. I mean, their only son, has just been told he has a brain tumor, and nobody wants that for their friend, their son, anybody. And so to see that from their perspective, to see that I was holding up, that I was going through this as strong as I could, really strengthened them a lot. And that really is what got us through, I think. That's really what helped us a lot. And that would be my biggest recommendation to people that are going through this is try to rely on those around you as much as you can, and understand that your strength is going to strengthen them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely, like you said, like having that support. Of course, like I had my parents, my grandparents, y'all, and a couple other friends and friend groups and things. Because I mean, we were fresh out of high school. We still had a lot of connections in high school, because we hadn't been gone that long.
Yeah.
And all of our friends who were younger than us, and yours was the end of the summer, and mine was going into the summer. So again, like those people we could still see a lot of people we wouldn't usually see like throughout the school year.
Yeah.
But like having those people, having y'all, and I remember specifically like you kind of have to put on a brave face for everyone else. Like you said, because they're going to feed off that energy.
Yeah.
But it also helps you, not that you're trying to fake it and make it seem real, but then once you get into that same mindset where you're just like, it's out of my hands.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to do anything that I can about it. I'm not going to let anything stop me. Then everyone else is going to feed off that as well. And I remember also telling y'all, I don't think I had to tell y'all, but like treating like me, like I just didn't have, like, not that I didn't have it, but just treating me how we always talked and how we always been treated.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, we can just add the jokes.
Yeah.
Essentially. I was like, y'all have the past to joke about it. I was like, because I want to joke about it. And I don't want y'all to feel like there's nothing you can't say around me.
Yeah.
And I remember that like helping too, just feeling like nothing had really changed. Like that y'all. And I know y'all felt bad for me. Because, I mean, I felt bad when you were getting part of your brain taken. I mean, if I didn't feel bad, then there would be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But I remember going to your house the first time that you had come home for it, or when you had finally gotten home, and you opened the door for us, and you were just acting like nothing had happened, and you couldn't really tell that anything had happened because the only part that they'd cut was that back of your head.
Yeah.
Like with your hair, they just cut that strip for you to go in and come out.
I always like to say I had a landing strip on the back of my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a nice scar.
Yeah. I've got a gnarly scar to prove it now. Yeah.
Because we'll probably talk about. I love my scars.
Yeah.
I adore them. I do not mind to show them off when people ask.
Well, I've got some more embarrassing scars that are for another day, but definitely the one on the back of my head is one that I'm not ashamed. I'm proud to talk about it for sure. I'm 100% there with you.
I remember you just acting like it was nothing. Of course, like this was months before like this had happened to me. And of course, like I didn't know like that. But then I remember you just being like, nothing's gonna happen. So I was like, and I remember going in like feeling sorry. I was like, I don't know like what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not great in sad situations because I'm very like happy. I like to make jokes.
Yeah.
And, like, that's just where my mind goes. So like I remember being like at the door. I think I was like me and Brant, and like I was just sitting there. I was kind of getting nervous to like see you. I was just like, I love Daniel to death, but I was like, I just don't know like how to act. And you were just like, hey, and we were like at that moment. I was just like, what am I doing? I was just like, he's still like the same. I was like, he just had a part of his brain cut out. I was just like, and we'll get to that. We'll get everything else out of the way first, and we'll get to that. And we kind of just carried on ever since, like it was nothing. And like you said, we fed off that energy.
And the thing for me, and before I say any of this, I'm certainly not speaking for every person that's ever had a tumor, nor am I speaking for every person that's ever had cancer. So, quick disclaimer for that. But you kind of alluded to a little bit. The thing that I really wanted to try to make as clear as I could, whether through literally saying it or just through my actions, which I know you agree with this, is I didn't want to be the guy that had the tumor. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be Daniel, the one that had a tumor on the back of his head that had to have it removed. I just wanted to be Daniel because I understood totally that my situation, and later we'd find out your situation, are relatively rare. Most people don't have to deal with the things, especially at our age, that we had to deal with. But I didn't want to be labeled like that because I felt like for me, it was somewhat putting me in a box, and I also didn't feel like I deserved the pity necessarily because
as we talked about, I've also agreed with that. Not that you don't deserve the pity.
But as weird as it sounds, I greatly appreciated everyone's concern. Not to say that I'm just like, oh, I don't want you to come check on me, but like I greatly appreciate everybody's concern. I remember, funny enough, little side tangent, that night, Mark Davis came and visited. One of our, for those that don't know, he's just somebody we know. I know you're really close to his family, but Mark Davis came and visited, and he brought me a caramel frappe from McDonald's and a cheeseburger, a cheeseburger from a local restaurant named Michael's. And I was just like, this is just his way of caring for me. This is just what this is just his way of just saying, hey, I'm thinking of you. But that's besides the point. But I greatly appreciated people checking on me and making sure I was okay, but I wanted to be as little of a nuisance as I could, and I didn't feel like I deserved their pity because, albeit, yes, I had a brain tumor that is relatively rare, relatively speaking, that most people don't have to deal with. There are a lot of other people in this world that have a lot bigger problems than I did, and the fact that I made it out relatively unscathed, for the most part, I count myself very fortunate and blessed. And if anybody deserves pity, it's not me. It's other people that have to deal with a lot worse situations. And so I didn't want people to bend over backwards, just trying to clean up for me everywhere and trying to be, trying to throw me a pity party all the time. Not because I didn't appreciate it, but I wanted them to know that I'm okay. I can get up and walk around, do what I need to do. I appreciate it, but you don't have to stop your whole life to attend to me.
Because there's more to you.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't want to be put in a box. You don't want that to define you.
Yeah.
And like Daniel said, I'm also not speaking on behalf.
Yeah.
I'm not a delegate for everyone that's ever had cancer of any sort or brain tumor. And I might say some things that someone might disagree with, but again, this is just
you.
Yeah, this is just me. This is not everybody. Everyone has different experiences, and everybody has different mindsets about how they go through things. But you don't want that. You don't appreciate it, but you wanted to be Daniel. Like I wanted to be Will. I didn't want this to define me. I didn't want this to be all that everyone knew me as, because I was honestly scared that if they thought that that's all that there was to me, then eventually I would think that that's all there was to me, and then I wouldn't know how to move forward like out of that situation, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself. But I remember immediately after we had talked about it, we all went and hung out and everything, and and I told all my other friend groups to treat me that same way. And I remember, like I said, I didn't have to tell y'all because it was just like that easy.
Yeah.
And you already knew,
Yeah.
but like through everything, like that you didn't want to feel like that, and you knew that I probably didn't want to feel like that also, which I greatly appreciated. Because it felt normal.
Yeah.
Because in that moment in your life, everything is basically
everything but normal.
Yes.
Yes.
And you appreciate even more so the times where everything feels normal.
Yes. Yeah. And this is gonna be a weird analogy, but like to me, again, I greatly appreciated everybody's support and encouragement, and I would not trade any of that for the world. But I didn't want to walk around being the tumor kid, because to me it kind of felt like playing the same joke over and over and over again. Not that my tumor is funny, but like, you know, if a comedian said the same joke over and over and over and over and over again, at some point it's going to get old. And I didn't want people to think that I was like trying to milk this for something, like, you know, like I'm gonna try and get all this sympathy out of people, or I'm, you know, just constantly walking around just crying all the time, like I'm just wallowing in my own tears. Like at some point I had to accept where I was and just say, this happened to me. Yes, I'm dealing with it, but there's more to me than there's more to me, my story, than that. And I think that does a lot. Like me personally, I hope that brings a little bit of peace to anybody that is dealing with something like this, because like you said, the last thing you want is for your life to be not normal. Everything is so chaotic. You want to return back to normal as quickly as possible. And so if you can get things to just go back to normal as soon as possible, then do that. That was what my mindset was. I didn't want people to, if you and Brant and Kate and all them had walked in and just been like wallowing in the floor, I would have been like, this is, please stop. Like, this is just not what I need right now, you know? And I know that sounds weird, but I wanted to be treated just like how I normally was, you know? And again, I understood my situation was somewhat abnormal, but I didn't want to be put on a pedestal either. Like I didn't as weird as this sounds, like I didn't want people to think that I was somehow like deserving of being put in front of people. Like I'm this champion of life somehow. Like, yeah, I made it through the situation, but we all have issues. We all have problems. Like I just managed to make it through this one. I'm normal just like everybody else, you know? Again, not speaking for everybody, but that was just for me the reason why I felt that way, you know? Yeah.
And I had the Mark's son, and Mark's oldest son, Luke Davis. His wedding was a couple weeks before, or it was the weekend before I started my treatment, and like just talking about everybody treating you fine, like just normal. I remember driving to Paris, Tennessee for that wedding a couple days before, and at the time everyone had already known. They'd known long enough. They knew we were getting everything started, and it was just going to be that next Monday or Tuesday in May. I think it was like May 16th was like the first day that I was supposed to have treatment. And I remember we were going to this wedding for Luke's wedding, and me and Luke's youngest brother Dalton, and then our other cousins, Cole Massengale and Samuel Massengale and Gabe Massengale. We were all in this car, cramped for 4 hours to Paris, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And we were just having a good old time. It just felt like everything was normal. And then when we got there to Paris, we met Luke, and again, everything was normal. He asked me like some questions, like just because I hadn't seen him in a little bit, but it still felt normal. Like there'd be times, and there's times now where I'm just like I'd just forgotten about it because everything just felt so normal, and I'd be like, oh yeah, like I have cancer, or I had cancer.
Yeah.
Like until someone brings it up, I'm just like, oh yeah, like I forgot about that. Because in my head, I was like you said, you're like, I want to get back to as normal as possible.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be a small portion of my life. We're gonna be in and out like as quick as it can be.
Yeah.
Like we're just gonna get it done and then put it all behind us. And then we got to that night, and a couple of the other groomsmen come in, and I said I thought that they had already known, so I just made a joke to Luke and Dalton and everybody else, and they kind of laughed it off, and they were like, "You what?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
and you immediately thought, "Oh no, oh no."
Like,
yeah.
Did y'all not know that?
Yeah.
And I just made another joke, and they were just like, Are you okay?
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm fine. Like I was like, to me, I was like, I don't know what the big deal is.
Yeah.
Because at the time, like I had time to deal with it. Those closest to me had time to deal with it, and I just had forgotten that there were still people that just didn't know. because like at home, like with you,
Yeah.
everyone is texting you. It's posted on social media. I was like, to me, that was like everyone in the whole world knows at this point.
Especially where we're from, where there's like 12 people.
Yes.
It feels like everyone and their mother knows what's going on in your life. Yeah.
And it's also, we joked about in our friend group with your brain tumor and then my cancer of just like what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we were like, who's next? Yeah.
So like everyone was already on lookout for that. But like they were just like, "Are you fine?" I explained the whole thing to them, and they were just like, "Well, you seem to be in good spirits about it." And I was just like, "Well, I don't have anywhere else to be."
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know why I wouldn't be." And they went on like treating me like everything was fine. And then Luke told me after the wedding, he was like, "I appreciate you," because he didn't know I was waiting for treatment until after the wedding was over.
Yeah.
Because I had like a choice to do it like the Monday before, and I was just like. He said, "I appreciate you doing this." He goes, "You didn't have to do that for me." And I was like, "Luke," I was like, "I just wanted to have hair for the picture."
Yeah.
And he started laughing. He was just like, He goes, "That's honestly terrible, but that's just so funny that you said that." And I was just like, "Well, it's true." I was like, you can think that I did it for you.
Yeah.
I was like, "That's fine." I was like, I'd rather you.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
You just wanted to look snazzy in pictures. Yeah.
I was like, and of course, funny story about that later on, whenever it come time, I had a whole party at my house. I think you were on vacation then I think you were with Scott and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
At that time. And I had a whole party not telling anyone that I was shaving my head that night until the clippers were brought out. And I think Brant ended up cutting my hair because he cut yours as well when it come down to it. But I didn't tell anybody about that. And then I had basically all my friends in one sitting and watching my head get shaved. Yeah. Which was already a funny thing just to go on. I didn't tell my parents or anything. Like no one knew except like me. And I was like, I'm doing this tonight. And then I think Cole Massengale knew because he had to bring me the clippers because he was in barber school at the time. But Brant shaved my head. And then I took like some Snapchat pictures and stuff and didn't tell my parents or anything like till the next day. And it was just a funny like time. And then I've come to find out that even with my treatments and everything, that my hair wasn't going to fall out. So you
just needlessly shaved your head.
I did. I sure did. I preemptively was just like, it's going to fall out because that's what the movies and TV shows and that's what all these papers that say like is the main side effect is your hair falling out. Yeah. But it didn't.
That's what you get for all these cancer jokes.
It was.
Yeah. Like, karma came back and got you.
Yeah. We're going to put a joke on you. You think you need to... And my hair was real long. Like, it was pretty long at the time. And I was just like, well, this is what I get. Yeah. Of course, it didn't grow all the way back, but it still was growing. And I was just like, no, I shouldn't have cut it.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I will say, so Will briefly mentioned it in my undying support for Will, at some point after that, I shaved my head as well, just partly just because I just wanted to see what I looked like bald, which I kind of liked it. I'm not gonna lie.
It was the day that you come back, or the day after you come back from vacation, because you didn't know until we sent it to our group chat.
I know it was right after Sky and Elizabeth's wedding, I think, or something like that. Something like that.
You did have to wait for that.
Yeah.
When you come back from that. And I also want to say like. Daniel's undying support. He was the only one, and I wasn't asking anyone to do it, but he was the only one that offered and went through. Yeah. I will say, went through.
Let the record show. Yes. I did indeed. We have pictures to prove it, pictures and video. But yeah, I shaved my head, and funny story about that. Walking into work the next day, I didn't tell anybody that I'd shaved my head, and like my hair wasn't super long, but like. You know, if you've never shaved your head before, it's a bit of a sight, to see. Yeah. And so I remember the next day it was kind of rainy, and so I had worn a jacket, and I had deliberately put my hood over my head, and I walked in, and I was looking around, and everybody was like, "Hey, Daniel, how you doing? Hey, whatever." And I kind of get to an area where everybody can see me, and I take my hood off my jacket, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, what did you do? What happened to your hair?" And I was like, "What hair? What do you mean? What happened? What do you mean?" So, yeah. So the main takeaway from this whole conversation is if you've never shaved your head, you need to do it at least once in your life. It's actually pretty nice.
It is nice to see what it's like. And you also let the record state that you have a very nice shaped head. The way that your head is shaped, it looks good bald.
I appreciate that. And I have
also right now, as long as it also looks good. I also want to mention that, not that you should always keep it shaved, but if it came down to it again, you have a nicely shaved head.
And I've got a gnarly scar to show off too to go along with it. Yeah.
And you had it then as well.
Yeah, I did. So that was a fun time. But as I look back on this portion of my life, I just, it almost seems like it never happened, as in a weird way, because
I understand that.
nobody really talks about it that much. I mean, my family every now and then, like, when pictures will come up, but like, I remember at that time, it felt like everybody was talking about it. Like, I legitimately could not go out in public. Again, we live in a very small town, so I'm not saying like we were in, Times Square and people were coming, but like, I could not go to a restaurant without someone seeing me, walking up to me and asking how I was doing, how I'm feeling. And again, I appreciate it, but sometimes you just want to go get food, man. Like, you're just, and so for a while it was like, holy cow, man, like, I just want to be left alone for just like a day,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But looking back, it's almost, in a weird way, like I said, it feels like it never happened, because a lot of my friends that I met here at UTC, like, they didn't know that. I had to re-explain all this to them if they wanted to know. And like, it's not really brought up. And I look back and I'm like, I don't really have any side effects from it really that much. I mean, I have one visual side effect, but like, that's not really that bad. Like, I've adapted to it.
And no one else can see that.
Yeah.
except you.
Yeah. And so like, and even now, like, you can't see my scar with my hair, but even when my head is shaved, you kind of have to look to see it. Like, it's not super, super obvious, as weird as that sounds. And so I look back and I'm like, it was such a crazy time. Like, it almost feels like it wasn't real. Like, it didn't actually happen. Like, I just dreamt it all or something, because, looking at you now, like,
There's no way you could tell.
you wouldn't think. Yeah, I mean, for those that are listening, let the record state, Will's hair is grown back out. It's perfectly normal. So it's not like he's like a shell of himself or anything. So you wouldn't think to know that he dealt with cancer for, what, 2 years? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or something, somewhere in that ball.
19 to,
Yeah.
To about February of 2021.
Yeah. So almost about 2 years. I mean, you wouldn't think to know that. And so it's just so strange. Like, I look back and I'm like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Like, did that part of my life really take place? And obviously it did, but to me, I'm so thankful in a weird way for that time, because not that I would wish for that to happen to me again, or for for that to happen to anybody, but I learned a lot during that time. When you get diagnosed with stuff like that, you grow up really fast. You learn to, deal with things in a lot different way. I felt much more prepared for different trials that life threw at me, or would throw at me. I don't necessarily know how I'm trying to finish this, but I just remember, I know looking back, it's like, it almost doesn't seem real, because it's almost something like out of a movie, in a weird way,
Because it honestly, I mean, I feel that same way. Like, because as I mentioned before, I'm at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga now.
Go Mocs.
Yes, go Mocs.
Go Mocs.
Once again, go Mocs.
Yeah.
And Daniel being an alumni.
Yeah, go Mocs. Yeah. We're required to say that's in the contract you sign when you go to UTC. Go Mocs.
Yes, you have to name drop them every single time.
Yes. Yeah.
But I met a lot of the same people that you did. A little less, because you spent your entire 3.5 years, was it?
Yeah, 3.5
years of school there, and I've just spent this last year. And it was nice for no one to really know until I can't remember how it was exactly brought up. I know I had told somebody, and my hair at the time was short still, because I was close to a year out of transplant. And it took a couple months for my hair to start actually healthily growing back healthy.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds a lot better than healthily.
Yeah.
But everyone just thought that I had short hair, because I mean, I also looked like I was losing my hair, and then I was about 27 years old, as mentioned by a couple of the younger students.
Yeah.
Who did not know me. But then I remember having to explain that. For a good while, and then having to explain it this semester even. Someone was not there apparently whenever I had mentioned it, and they're like, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And again, I had that same thought, was just like, well, I thought everybody knew that.
Yeah.
Like, and I just forget. And then being in Chattanooga with no one really talking about it, like you said, like no one really wants to talk about it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also too, like, how do you bring that up?
Yeah,
like, I could understand, like, I don't know how, if I was on the other side of things, like if I did not know you, I don't know how I would bring this up. Like, hey, are you the one with the cancer? Like, like, how do you bring, it's a very odd thing.
Like, Daniel knowing me and seeing me do it probably a couple times whenever because the only person that could bring it up is like the person that has it.
Yeah.
So when I introduce it, I'm just like, hey, I had cancer.
Yeah.
And the people are really taken back because, like I mentioned to him, like, not that I want to make it significant for anyone else,
Yeah.
or less significant for anyone's family members or whatnot, but like, again, this is just me. I try to say it as nonchalantly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
For one, to see if anyone like catches that that's what I said.
Yeah.
And also for them to be like, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's funny to just try as nonchalantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I did that.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and then
Yeah.
you're just like, what?
Yeah.
And then of course, like I go into greater detail, and they usually ask me about it later on or whatever, and it ends up being like a very serious heart-to-heart thing.
Yeah.
But originally, I am very, very just, and like especially if I know someone, I'm never gonna just, or if I don't know anybody, I'm never just gonna bring it up. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Or even at all.
Yeah.
I'm never just gonna be the first time that I meet somebody be like, this is me.
Yeah.
And I have this like very like possibly deathly disease.
Yeah.
Because how are you supposed to react to that?
Yeah.
Like honestly.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that. Not too long ago. So like I said, like I've gotten to a point now where I forget who I've told. So like, not that I just bring it up all the time, but like I'm now prepared. Like if it ever gets brought up, I'm just prepared to have to explain it to somebody, because there's bound to be someone that's like, wait a minute, I didn't know that.
Yep.
And it happened at work not too long ago. I was sitting with two of my coworkers. One of them knew that I had brain surgery, but one of them did not, for whatever reason, you know. And so somehow, I don't know, but it got brought up in conversation. And my coworker that didn't know, she was like, wait a minute, you had a brain tumor? And I was like, yeah, I did. Yeah. And so she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah. That was like 3-4 years ago. Like I'm okay. But I went through the whole story with her and everything, and explained it to her. And it was funny because at that time, if she's listening to this, she'll know who she is. So I apologize for this. But at the time, her jaw was just like on the floor. She was like, oh my gosh, like I could tell she was just taking all this entire story in. And meanwhile, I was like, yeah, and so I went and got surgery, and then I did this and I did that, just talking about it in a very nonchalant way. And at the end of it, she was like, you just described this whole situation as if it was like a walk in the park. And I was like, well, it was like 4 years ago. I mean, it feels like it was a whole other life at this point, you know. It's just, which it's weird to say it was almost 4 years ago, but it's at some point for me, it became not who I was. It was just something that I had went through, you know.
Just a small chapter in the book of your life.
Yes. And that's what I wanted it to be. Not that I wanted to have to deal with this, but when it came down to me accepting that I was going to have to deal with this, I wanted it to just be a chapter. I knew that it was going to be, I knew there was going to be a very abnormal time. I knew there was going to be a lot of people talking to me, checking on me, and I had to get used to it at some point and just kind of be the weird local celebrity for a little bit.
So I stole your thunder.
Yes, thankfully. Yeah, no, thank you so much. But I knew it was only going to be a chapter, and that's really what I wanted. And I think that's what a lot of people, if they ever deal with stuff like this, that's what they want. They obviously want healing, and they want to be cured, and they want to be, have their problems solved, of course, first and foremost. But my advice to anybody on the outside looking in, if you know of someone that is dealing with something like this, my advice would be just to treat them just as normal as you can. I mean, unless they specifically say otherwise, just tend to them as best you can. Be attentive to them and try to help out, but just treat them like the person that they are. That's, for me, the last thing I ever wanted was to be treated like, I was some weird science experiment or something. I know that sounds weird, but I just wanted to be treated like a normal person. I just,
100% understand that.
Yeah, it's just because your life is just thrown into a whirlwind all of a sudden. And the last thing I wanted was for the people around me to probably unknowingly, but, unknowingly make it more of a whirlwind. You wanted to have the only sense of of normalness, if that's a word, in your life that you can have. You wanted to hold on to that. That was the thing that, really looking back, I'm glad I was kind of able to hold on to. Looking back, and that would be my biggest piece of advice to anybody kind of on the outside looking in, if they know of someone that is dealing with something like this, how they should respond. Would you say that's probably true for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and I mean, and even from the outside, like I know, like when people would ask me sometimes, like whether I was doing like okay or not, I just told people I was doing fine. Most of the time, I was doing great. Like I was happy to be wherever I was. But I remember being at like football games and things like in 2019, like basically being on after a whole summer of chemotherapy, and someone would be like, "How are you doing?" Or someone, a ton of people, because as you can also attest to, everyone in our town wants to talk to you.
Yes, you are the celebrity for a while.
Yes. And they're just like, "How are you doing?" And I'd just be like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Yeah.
Like I'd have like a hot dog in my hand, like a Coke or whatever. And I'd be like going back to my seat, and like, "Oh, I'm fine." Like, I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
And they would be like, "You brave soul."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not lying to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, and even if I was, just believe me.
Yeah.
Like, can we just talk about anything else?
Yeah.
Because you do. I mean,
Yeah.
whoever's going through it, they want that normalness.
Yeah.
Like they want to feel normal. They don't want that to be the only thing that defines them. And we appreciate.
Yeah.
I will say again, every single thought, every prayer, every concern that we could possibly have, every moment taken out of somebody's day is always appreciated.
Yeah.
But that sense of normalness is like everything else is there, all the support is there, and that's the only thing that like I felt like I was lacking.
Yeah.
Because like you said, in that moment, everything is anything but normal.
Yeah. And I get it too, because the people that know you, they want to help. However they can. But like we mentioned, there isn't really much you can do from the sense of like solving the problem.
Yes.
A lot of people would like cook meals for us and come hang out with us and speak with us, and that really does do a lot, but there really isn't much beyond that people can do. And so I totally understood, like, people wanted to help, but they didn't really know how, so you'd get those people come up to you and just be like, "Hey, we're so sorry." Like, it's like, what are you supposed to say? Like, honestly, like, if I was on the outside looking in, I don't know what I would say. Yeah. Like, if I had never dealt with what I had to deal with, and I walked up to you and didn't, I kind of loosely knew you, I don't know what I would say. Like, I would just be like, "Hey man, I hope you're doing all right." It's like, what do you, because people want to help, but it's not like they can do anything. It's not like they can say, "Hey, here's $5. This will help to your cause." Like, they just had to kind of be there, and it's a weird feeling. I would imagine it's a weird feeling being on the outside looking in, because just like us who had to deal with it, you want to help, you want to do something about it, but there really isn't all that much you can do about it,
I felt that way because, like I said, ours was staggered by a couple months, or by probably about 6 months or so. And I felt that way, like I said, walking up to your door, and I was just like I was like, I would do anything for him, but I just don't know what to do. And then, not that I didn't have to do anything, because I was like, he will ask me if there's something specific that I need to do. I was like, and I've told you that like later on, and we all said like, if there's anything, like, just let us know. And then whenever I was just like, I was like, he just wants us to act like nothing's really happening. I was just like, he will like talk about it when he wants to talk about it with us, whatever it may be. I was just like, but he like, and I literally didn't know, and I didn't understand it until later on, like we talked about. Like I was just like, I do not know what I need to do for Daniel. I was like, we've just been getting close. Like the closest, or we really started getting close whenever we were going to, I think it was when we were going to see Endgame.
Yeah, it was around that time, or around Infinity War or something like that. We had we'd all gone to see a lot of the Marvel movies together, I know.
Because we were all home for it at the time. But me and you, for some reason, were in the car together, and we had to pick up Brant, and then we had to go and pick up Kate.
Yes.
And then you were just like, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah. This was like our only moment, like, alone, like, just me and you,
And we basically talked about everything that we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
And then that's whenever the whole thing officially started between us on Who Has It Worse.
Yeah.
Because we were both just sitting there laughing and arguing about everything. But I remember just being in that moment, and I don't think I'd ever expressed like the same like being at your door feeling as I have like right now. But I just remember being like, that's when I like fully realized. So whenever you felt the same, I was like, well, I just thought that was just I thought I was kind of being selfish.
I thought I was crazy.
I thought I was just being rude because I didn't want everybody to pity, and you were just like, no, I think I told you, I'd rather somebody be mad at me than pity me.
Yeah.
I cannot stand it. That gets on my nerves more than anything.
Yeah.
I understand it, like we've talked about, and it was appreciated. I'm not saying it's not appreciated.
Yeah.
I just don't deal with that when someone is sad toward me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I that moment was very funny because up until that point, I don't know if me and you had ever just been in the same just me and you, because usually when we'd hang, like, so for context, like, we've been throwing a few names out here for those that don't know. Some of our best friends, Brant and Cade. I have known Brant and Cade virtually my entire life, so I've spent plenty of times in just me and them, like, one-on-one in rooms before we've talked and whatever. But we didn't really get to know each other until into high school, especially later into high school. So when we would hang out, it was usually with all four of us in the same room. It was never usually me and you, you know? And so that was really, I forget where we were going. We were like going to pick somebody up, and it was like a 15, 20-minute drive somewhere. And it was just me and you. And I remember pulling out of my driveway, and it was very quiet. And I was like, in my head, I was like, there's an elephant in this room right now, and we need to address it right now, or it's going to be very quiet, a very awkward, quiet drive. And I was just like, I need to ask you about something real quick. And,
I just gotta get this on my mind. And I was honestly sitting there, like, I remember that same moment where, like, I also realized, I was like, I don't think we'd ever, like, just us been, like, somewhere together. And I also remember thinking, I was just like, me and Brant, we went to elementary school together. Like, I literally remember the first day of kindergarten walking in and seeing him on our teacher's lap.
Yeah. That's a funny thought to think about.
For the short version of the story, that's what happened. And then I remember meeting Cade in, like, the 5th grade, and then knowing him throughout high school and stuff. But, like, we met officially in high school. Like, we'd known about each other through middle school and stuff. But again, we went to totally different schools.
Yeah.
We never played on the same team for sports.
Yeah.
Like, I always knew you and saw you, knew who you were. Like, I could pick you out of the crowd.
Yeah.
And it was easy.
I was taller than everybody.
Yes, it was very easy. It's easy now. And, also easy back then.
Yeah.
But I remember being there. I'm just like, what am I? Like, I was like, I don't know what to say. I was just like, I almost was like wanting that moment.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm closer to these other guys, but I want to be close to Daniel too. And I was like, come on. I was like, think of something to say. I was like, what would you usually say? And then you said, we just got to talk about something.
Yeah.
I was just like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever you want to talk
about.
And then we, basically for the 15 or 20 minutes, we had talked about that.
Yeah.
And I almost felt interrupted when we had to let Brandon know what it was in the car.
Yeah. No,
we were picking up steam, we were having fun, and then we were just like, oh, we got
stop. Yeah, and it's not that we can't talk about that around other people, but it's just, it's different. I hate to sound so much like I'm gatekeeping or something, but it's like, it's just different. Yes. It's something that when you have a similar shared experience, I mean, that goes with a lot of things in life. Like, when you have that person that really knows what you've gone through or can really empathize with you, it's so much different. And I felt the same way. Like, we were having such a, like, almost intense conversation, and then we pulled up to where it was, and I was like, well, we gotta bottle this up for a little bit, you know. It's just funny. So I'm glad that we've been able to unpack all of this right now. That's definitely been fun.
We've done it multiple times since then, but this is like the official time.
Yeah, for all the masses to hear. But yeah, I guess if there's one thing I would, if I could somehow, like, in a bow, wrap up everything I've just said and try to package it up into one little ball that, you know, anybody can take with them, is whether you are the person in the situation or you are someone on the outside looking in, and you're in any way involved with someone that's dealing with anything similar to what we've been talking about, the main thing you can do to help is just try your best. Just do whatever you can just to keep your composure, and just try to keep things as normal as you can, because your life is going to get thrown into a spiral very quickly. For me, it was relatively short-lived because, like I said, it all kind of happened in the month of July, and a little bit it bled into, you know, August. August follows July. Bled into August a little bit, and it kind of phased out after that because I had gone to school, and it all, you know. But for a lot of people, I mean, some of these things are their whole lives. I mean, I know we know of people that have dealt with things like this and much longer and much harder battles than both of us had to deal with. And the best thing you can do is just try to, from, again, not speaking for everybody, but in my experience, just try to keep things as normal as you can, because their lives are already so abnormal and so in a whirlwind that the last thing they need is for their friends or their loved ones to make it that extra bit more. They want to make it as normal as they possibly can, that's really the best piece of advice I can give. If I could wrap all this up, into one little piece of advice, is just do whatever you can to keep your composure, keep your head on straight, and lean on those around you, and just try to be as normal as you can, and joke about it if you can,
Like I said, it's not the healthiest coping mechanism, but it's not the least. Like, it's not the most harmful one either. I wouldn't change it personally. I can't think. I never wrote any down, but I'm pretty sure. Like, there's some that I've said that I was pretty proud of. I'm not gonna lie. There's some that I wasn't. I'm not gonna lie about that either. And there's some that were just hit or miss. But I was gonna say what I wanted to say in those situations. So I was kind of just letting it fly at one point.
Well, did we miss anything?
I don't think so. We both know there's a lot.
There's probably some stuff we're forgetting, but I'm trying to think if we've missed anything so far.
I know, like, personally for me, like, we've kind of unpacked like half. But again, we've also spent like a lot of time so far. So we don't have to get into everything. I'm just trying to think. There's so if we could have like hot mics on us at all times, like just to catch the conversation, the short conversations we have, like every now and then, it'd be a lot easier. But just trying to. This is really kind of the first time. Not the first time, but I've never really sat down at length and like unpacked all of this either. So it's kind of a first for me as well to really unpack all of this, and eventually people are going to hear all of this, So which isn't nerve wracking at all. I think that someone else is hearing my thoughts, or a lot of people might be hearing my thoughts for the first time.
But yeah, man, I guess for the time being, that's kind of all I have to say about that. I know that, like I said, this was very, very loose structured. Normally, if I do any interviews, I'll try to keep them relatively structured. But I just wanted this to be a loose conversation between the two of us, and I think it was a successful conversation so far.
I think it most definitely was. As me and you both know, any subject that we talk about, we usually we get a pretty good conversation out of it. Earlier, us just talking about pickled objects and sweet potatoes.
The question of the day, which I'm going to propose this to all the you can chew on this for a little bit, is whenever if you pickle anything, like you pickle like an onion, like you pickled onions, or you've got like pickled eggs, or something, I don't know, you refer to them as pickled, insert whatever here. But when you pickle cucumbers and turn them into pickles, they're just called pickles, So my question is, why do we do that? What was that, like the original pickle? Like it was the original one? I don't know. These are the questions that plague my mind every day. I don't know.
We need to have a new word.
Yeah, exactly. Should we call them pickled cucumbers, or what I don't know. But before we go here, a bit of a tradition that I'm beginning with this show is I want to end on 15 quick questions with you, totally unrelated to everything we've just spoken about. But these are all this or that questions. Okay, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to read them off to you, and you just tell me your gut reaction. This is going to be in public. This is going to be published. So, this is going on the record. These are your thoughts and this is what you think. So I'm going to read them off to you. It's going to be 15 quick questions with Will. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Lunch.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Netflix, Hulu, or HBO Max?
Oh, that one's a tough one. Oh gosh. I think I'm on Hulu more, but HBO Max has better movie selection, so I'm going to say HBO Max.
Staying in or going out?
I stay in a lot, so I'm going to say going out.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Any pizza, or just
yes or no? Does it belong on pizza, yes or no?
I was going to say yes sometimes.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
When you eat a brownie, are you going to eat the corner piece or the middle piece?
Is it brownies I've just made for myself?
Sure. Yeah.
Then I'm gonna eat the side piece first, and then I'm gonna work my way in and then out.
So you're more of a corner piece guy, like you're gonna go to the.
I'm gonna go to the edge,
Yeah,
but not the corner.
Oh, okay.
So you get a little bit of both.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. All right, hot coffee or iced coffee?
Hot coffee.
70s, 80s, or 90s?
70s.
Squat, bench, or deadlift?
Bench.
Hard or soft shell tacos?
I'll say soft.
Scooby-Doo or Tom and Jerry?
Ooh, like the original Scooby-Doo?
Sure, yeah.
Original Tom and Jerry?
Well, whatever just popped in your mind, whether you thought of original or the animated ones, whatever comes to mind for you.
I'm gonna say original Scooby-Doo.
Okay, and rank the Star Wars movies: prequels, original trilogy, or the Disney trilogy.
I'm gonna say Empire is number one.
Okay. So are you gonna do the movies or the trilogies?
Okay. With trilogies, we're gonna go original.
Well, how about this? We'll change it a little bit. Give me your top 3 Star Wars movies, and then rank the trilogies.
My top 3 Star Wars movies, just based on story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say action, and then the elements that like physically like made the movie, because I'm more partial to the originals just because of the intricate things they made. I'm saying my personal top 3, if I'm going to specifically choose with the ones, is going to be Empire, and then Return of the Jedi, and third will probably be Revenge of the Sith, because they have some great action.
A little prequel love.
A little prequel love.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of all the CGI.
Yeah.
But they have great fight scenes, and the score for all of them is phenomenal.
Yeah. And then give me your trilogy rank if you're ranking all 3 of the trilogies.
Originals.
This is going to get dicey right here.
This is going to get dicey. Originals is always going to be at the top.
Yeah.
I'm always giving love to the originals. Yeah. But with the prequels and the sequels, for original story's sake, I'm going to say originals, prequels. Sequels.
Oh man, okay, all right. So you're a prequels guy over the Disney trilogy.
Just under the consideration that it's all in the same story.
Okay.
Although I do love the sequels, and they kind of incorporate both forms of practical effects and CGI.
Yeah.
But Ewan McGregor is what defines the first 3 movies.
Yeah.
And he really makes them.
Yeah.
He goes all out.
Okay.
I got to give Ewan McGregor some love.
Give him his flowers. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That he's the only thing that make the prequels to me better than the sequels.
All right. And then final question. This is number 15. This is going to be a constant threat. I asked my last interview. I asked this: would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? And you can think about this one a little bit if you need to.
Okay, so you said 1 horse-sized duck.
You're in a fight, okay, and you're going to either fight a horse-sized duck, a duck that is the size of a horse, or you're going to fight 100 duck-sized horses. Which one are you going to pick? Which one do you think you would fare better against?
Is it just me, or do I have some sort of weapon?
You get one weapon of choice within reason, not like a tank. Like anything you can hold in your hand, like you get that weapon of choice.
I feel like it would be. I think this would be easier if you pick the weapon.
Okay, I'll say this. You get. Oh man, now you flipped it on me. You get nunchucks. That's what you get.
Ooh.
You get a blunt object you get to whip around. That's what it is.
The only reason I put it off on you, by the way, was because for each situation, it kind of requires a different weapon.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you nunchucks. It's a little. I'm assuming it's a little out of your wheelhouse too. So it's gonna be, it's gonna be a learning experience for you.
I don't know. My father used to be great at the nunchucks. He can do the over the shoulder and behind the back.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Really?
Yes.
I need to see that.
He got really good at it.
Yeah.
He can still kind of do it a little bit, which is a tidbit for my father, Joe guy. Also, if this is released within the year of 2022 or 2026, vote for Joe Guy.
Vote for Joe Guy. I know Joe.
Yes, we experience, education, and integrity.
Yes. We're campaigning for him already.
But I would say with a pair of nunchucks, the duck-sized horses.
The 100 duck-sized horses.
I feel like you could sling a couple of them at a time
Yeah.
and just kind of get them away from you.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be harder with a blunt object to take on a horse-sized duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you got on its back and was like choking it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, you're gonna be thinking about this a lot, aren't you?
I actually am gonna think about that a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
That was my favorite question.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that's what I want to keep that one a constant throughout. So, there you go. There's his answer. So, anyways, Will, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I know that it's probably a little weird being interviewed, especially by someone you've known for a while. But I was really looking forward to this conversation, not just to ask you that question. I was really excited to ask you that question.
I was excited when you said the 15 questions.
Yeah.
I was like, I know there's going to be some that are just ridiculous. And those are the ones I was most ready for.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much just for sitting down. I really hope that whoever listens to this, whether they deal with anything that we've had to deal with or not, I hope they enjoy it, get something out of it, and maybe just laughed a little bit. So,
I also appreciate the time to sit down and talk with you. Any chance, not that I take any chance I can to share my story, because I usually share it when prompted to share it.
Yeah.
Because as one of our great friends says, there's a time and a place.
Yeah, there is a time and a place.
To name drop our buddy Jonathan Miller.
Yeah, shout out to J Mill.
If you ever listen to this as well. But anytime that somebody needs guidance or help through like whatever, I remember I had to find people I relied on who went through similar things or even the same thing, and how great of help that was to me. So I'm always willing and able to help anyone any way that I can.
Yeah.
And I know people can't contact me directly through this podcast.
Yeah.
But if you can ever find me in public or on social media or anything else, and you need help with anything that me and Daniel have talked about, we're within the wheelhouse at least. Maybe not defending 100 duck-sized horses.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can specifically help you with that.
We're going to hold you accountable to that.
We could try.
Yeah.
I mean, that throws another variable into the equation.
Yeah.
But with anything else, I'm always willing to talk about it with anyone. And if this possibly helps anyone at all, I'll feel greatly accomplished in anything. And I'll always take that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great note to end things on, Will. Again, thank you so much, Will, for taking the time to chat with me today. If you want to follow Will on Instagram, I know you're on Instagram. Are you on anything else you want the people to know about?
I am on Twitter.
You are? Oh, you are on Twitter.
I
okay.
am, because that's where my favorite jokes of.
That's where they go.
Yes.
Yeah. So where can people find you at?
On Twitter, I believe the handle is Willie H Guy.
All right.
And then on Instagram, it should be GuyW_21.
Gotcha. Well, I'll make sure to put your Instagram handle in the description of the. So if you wanna check out Will, see what he's got going on, you can go follow him. Go down to the description and give him a follow and ask him how that nunchuck training is going. But again, thank you so much for chatting with me today, and for all you out there listening, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you'll join us on the next episode.